called the 49ers, the San Francisco 49ers, the best team in the NFC on Thursday. I don't think anyone would question that. This Dolphins team, are you ready to call them the best team in the AFC?
I am. I mean, they just hung 70 points on an NFL defense. And don't get me wrong, this Broncos defense is not supposed to be the most elite, but they're also not awful. I mean, they're doing whatever they want, and they hung 70 points without Jalen Waddle, who's really their number 2 weapon. And the way that they're scoring these points is what's most impressive to me. I mean, it starts with Tyreek Hill. He's obviously doing everything for them. As we talked about earlier, when you're doing no-look shovel passes, you really have things cooking. Things are really working.
Well, you have both your running backs scoring 4 touchdowns each.
Ridiculous.
It's crazy.
And that is where I go, where it's like, how do you defend this offense right now? You've got Tyreek, and Tyreek's a big play guy, but can also, catch screens, make something happen. Their run game has also been dominant. I mean, like you said, 8 touchdowns between 2 running backs today.
It's unbelievable. You see that number, and you're like, well, they must have thrown it through the air a ton. Well, actually, no, they ran it quite a bit.
Quite a bit. So how do you defend this offense? And like I said, the league is trending more and more towards making it easier for offenses. And you look at what they're doing right now, it's incredible. Now, next week, that'll be a battle of 2 juggernauts now.
I can't wait to early thoughts on that one, that next week's matchup, from what you've seen.
Yeah,
these teams.
I expect it to be very, very close. I think the Bills are starting to come into their own. They got to answer some questions next week.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be a great matchup for both teams.
Let's talk about Sean Payton. He was obviously frustrated. You can understand why he would be frustrated. But I think a lot of us, when he took this job, he was in the booth with Fox. He seemed to be having a good time. He clearly was the belle of the ball. He could have gotten a job anywhere after all the success he had in New Orleans. A lot of people were surprised he went to Denver. Do you think it was a mistake, and how embarrassing was Sunday for him?
On a scale of 1 to 10, the embarrassment, I think, is at a 10, and I think you could see it all over his face, in that post-game interview.
Yeah.
In this league, there is, especially at that, there's a pride element to the head coach, and to sit here and say that you're one of 3 teams who have had 70 points hung on you is really a punch to the stomach.
Yeah.
And I think he is also probably having some regret where he has such a great legacy, with what he did for the Saints, to come out here and have this kind of start with really no, it's very bleak outlook for the rest of the year, let's say that, to be nice. Him and Russ situation and this offense have a lot of question marks. It can really tarnish kind of some of the things he's done in the past. And I think he's probably scratching his head a little bit, because I'm sure he enjoyed being in the booth when everyone was patting him on the back instead of getting 70 points hung on him.
And criticizing last year's Broncos head coach in the offseason. That doesn't look so good now either. And the Bills, let's get back to them really quickly. The defense looked great against the Commanders.
Right.
That's the Commanders. That's a rookie quarterback in Sam Howell. Now you're taking on Tua. How do you like this matchup? Bills D, Dolphins offense, which you've obviously said you're dazzled by right now.
So if I'm, head coach Sean McDermott is also the defensive coordinator. If I'm Sean McDermott, I am not trying to match up with this offense, because you simply can't. And I don't know if there is a defense in the league that can. They have too many weapons. They can do too many things. To me, if I'm Sean McDermott, I'm going into the film room. I'm trying to mimic to some degree what you did today, which was get 9 sacks. Pressure Tua as much as you can. This D-line, Rousseau, Floyd, all these guys, they've got to get pressure on Tua. Again, if you're going to sit here and say, we can cover Tyreek with this guy if Waddle's back. We can cover Waddle with this guy. We can stop the run game by doing this. It's not going to happen. You simply cannot match up with this offense. They have too many ways to attack you. They have too many weapons. But this right here, what you're watching, 9 sacks today, eventually led to 4 interceptions by Sam Howell. I'm not saying it'll be that kind of beatdown, but if you can pressure Tua, this offensive package goes from no-look shovel passes to a much smaller ordeal, which will help your case.
And this Bills defense is starting to look a lot more like the defense we saw last year. It's going to be a great matchup next Sunday on TSN. Well, this is something, because a couple of days ago I was asking, is it the Niners or the Cowboys, maybe the Eagles for your, top team in the NFC? Before this game, they very much belonged with those other 2 teams. And yet now, what do you make of what happened on Sunday?
Well, Jay, I do think it was a bit of a fluke. I'm not ready to just completely yard sale my thoughts on the Cowboys, but I'm not sure it could have been worse today, Jeff.
No.
And what was surprising for me was how poorly they played defensively. And I understand Trayvon Diggs is out, but I spent a lot of time with Dan Quinn, and I'm telling you, the pillars of his philosophy is stop the run and don't give up explosive plays in the pass game.
Yeah.
They gave up 220 some odd yards on the ground, and just to make things worse, have just wide open receivers as we're looking here for 60-plus yard pass plays.
That's true.
This is the polar opposite of Cowboys defensive coordinator Dan Quinn's preaching. I'm telling you, I have lived it. I listen to it every single day for a couple years. So to see this happen was strange. And on the flip side, you watch Dak Prescott there throw an interception. And if I'm a Cowboys fan, I think what the most disappointing part is, because I do think the defensive struggle today was a bit of a fluke. You know, your defense is having a bad day. You kind of sit there and you're like, we have Dak Prescott. He's supposed to be this premier guy. Step up and make some great plays because your defense needs it.
Right.
And you get down there, you don't score in the first red zone trip. You throw, in my opinion, a pretty brutal interception on the next one when the game's on the line. It's just not the things you want to see if you really believe, like, hey, this is a Super Bowl contender. Still a great team, but it was a bit heartbreaking. Not a bit, a lot heartbreaking if you're a Cowboys fan for a variety of reasons.
And I thought his answer was interesting about what they need to do to improve their red zone offense. Like he's saying, maybe I got to use my legs more. It's like, well, that's not.
No. I mean, you got weapons across the board.
Like, yeah. It's almost like he's calling out his receivers in a way in that way, or like saying, like,
yes.
Right?
It's just a strange ordeal. And it was, again, it's my biggest head scratcher in the day because with the lack of offense scoring and the defense getting absolutely torched, I will say on a flip side, hats off to the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, absolutely.
You blow the game against the Giants in one of the worst halves you can imagine. Yeah. And to rebound and put that performance on today, he's a bit of a strange dude, but their head coach there with his theatrics got himself a win today.
And Josh Dobbs, good for him, first career win. All right, listen, we're happy for them, but I feel like you've got some things to say about this whole T-Swizzles Kelsey situation.
I do, Jay. They're making such a big deal of it, and this is where my heart hurts. You look at the Travis Kelsey touchdown. You talk about textbook 101 plays in the red zone. Zone coverage. He's going to run what they call a back-end line. The spacing is perfect. He gives himself enough space in case someone actually does collision him. He can get his feet down. I want the youth to learn about a high back five throw from Patrick Mahomes, but instead, we're showing Taylor Swift going bonkers when they're up 41-0. This is football, and this is no shade at Taylor Swift, Jay. But let's teach the game here. It's 41-0. First off, when you're up 41-0, nothing deserves that sort of excitement. But secondly, to me, as an ex-football guy, I'm glad that, they're having fun, whatever. But I want to hear the breakdown of the play. I want to know how it happened. Again, for the youth out there, there's potential learning moments.
Yes,
for
it's a teachable moment.
Yeah, for all the young coaches out there, how are we zoning up? How are we scheming up the zone defense on the goal line? Instead, we're watching chest bumps in the press box.
Between Donna and Taylor. Curious to get your take. Why would McDaniels, knowing, as Collinsworth pointed out in the broadcast, he had to get a touchdown sometime. They were down 8. Why would McDaniels kick that field goal then?
I have absolutely no idea, Jay. I mean, and this is what gets even stranger about it, is it's not like your offense had been successful up until that point.
Right.
You're banking that you're going to get back down there, especially late in the game, where that drive where they got down there in the second half where they started to move the ball a little bit, the run game became better. Well, you're not going to run the ball under 2 minutes. So now all of a sudden you're relying on Jimmy G to just go down there and sling it around, which didn't happen all night.
No.
So what got very strange to me is you scored 15 points, I believe, to that point. You're down there, and it was 3rd and 4. In my head, at bare minimum, you hand the ball off, probably get it to 4th and 2, hopefully get a first down. And then you're sitting there at 4th and 2, and you've got your entire playbook you can use.
Yeah.
Play action, run game, quick game. You could take a shot in the end zone, whatever you want. But instead, we kick a field goal, and do this like mental gymnastics. Now we're down 5. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand.
And it seemed McDaniels, they were speculating, well, maybe McDaniels was so impressed with his own D, which had been good. He was so impressed and thought maybe they were good enough to just get a quick stop and let Jimmy G go back. But again, then Jimmy G's got to march all the way down the field, which
using his arm,
right?
And not throwing a pick.
Yeah,
and
which he's been doing. Yeah.
What are we thinking?
I don't know. I'd love to hear his reasoning behind that. There was a 2-point conversion in that game that put the Seahawks up 37-20. Let's have a look at that, guys. Geno Smith was scrambling. He finds the veteran Tyler Lockett in the end zone.
Cue the circus here.
Geno, buying time, finds Lockett. What did this remind our stats guy and hardcore Seahawks fan, Hound Dog Harrison, of? Oh, I don't know, just the 2014 NFC Championship game against the Packers.
Oh, say it ain't so.
Where Russell Wilson finds Luke Willson in the end zone. Now, the difference is you actually had to stroll across the play in the goal line to get in.
Yeah, that was a big moment, fun moment.
Oh, I guess so.
Especially that game.
Yeah.
We were getting smoked, really, and then kind of caught lightning in a bottle late and ended up going to the Super Bowl.
Pretty
Fond
exciting.
memory for me right
Yeah,
there.
right?
I appreciate Hound Dog throwing that in there, showing me some love.
Every one of your plays memorized. Hey, buddy, it was great having you on the show. Thanks for this.
Appreciate it.
Fun. We got to remember that Luke is going to be back on Monday night. And we've got a couple of promos here. Look at this. This is actually going to be a really good match.
I agree. And you know what? The Eagles secondary has looked so-so, and Baker Mayfield has looked above average.
Absolutely.
He could sling it around a little bit. I obviously love the Eagles to win, but it could be a fun one.
Philly, 4.5-point favorites, according to our friends at FanDuel. So that's one half of our Monday night. I love these Monday doubleheaders we got on the network. Second game between the Rams and Bengals. Again, odds by FanDuel. This is interesting. They lost the first 2 games of the season, but Cincy, Luke, 1.5-point favorites. Joe Burrow's status still up in the air. Game time decision.
Yeah, and again, another very interesting matchup. I think the Rams are a lot better than what everyone thought they were coming into this thing, and the Bengals need a win desperately.
Okay, so check both these games out, and then when the last game's over, just keep the channel on the old TSN. Just put the converter down, throw it in the toilet, because we're going to be on, myself and Luke, a little highlights.